She screamed the instant those cuffs snapped shut, right there on my porch, with half the neighborhood gawking and her lipstick already smeared. "You can't do this to me. I'm the president of this HOA. I have rights. But my son, my own flesh and blood, Deputy Luke Harper, just looked at her with that same unshakable calm he had when he was a boy, and broke his arm falling off the hayloft. Didn't flinch, didn't blink, just held her arms, badge glinting in the sun, as if he'd been waiting for this showdown his whole life. And that moment, as Karen Thompson realized she'd just called the cops on the one woman in this town who had a deputy for a son, I'll be honest, it was almost worth the nightmare. But maybe you want to know how things ever got that far. Because let's face it, nobody expects to move back home and end up in a war with a homeowners association run by a woman who acts like she owns the whole county. I'm Linda Harper, 60, widowed, more stubborn than a mule in mud season. Born and raised here in Timber Ridge, Colorado. This patch of land, Harper Crest Ranch, has been in my family 3 generations. My daddy taught me to mend fences and break a wild pony before I could even read. After my husband Tom passed, I packed up my little apartment in town, left the city noises, the sympathy casseroles, the lonely nights behind, and drove back out to where the grass always smells like rain, and the porch swing still creaks. Now, if you'd told me a decade ago that some HOA would crop up out here in cattle country, I'd have laughed. But sure enough, while I was gone, a bunch of new money folks built themselves Maple Ridge estates right next to my boundary line, gated, paved, fancy little street lamps and all. Problem is, some of them think their rules stretch farther than they do. Enter Karen Thompson, president for life, in her spotless white Lexus, acting like she's the sheriff, mayor, and queen rolled into one. First time she rolled up, I was unloading flower pots and sweat-soaked from the drive. She rolled down her window, sunglasses perched like a movie star, and asked, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you lost?" I about dropped my pot. I told her plain as day, "No, ma'am, this is my ranch. I'm moving back in." She gave me that look, like she'd stepped in something. "This is part of Maple Ridge now. You'll need HOA approval to move in." I laughed. Probably shouldn't have, but couldn't help myself. "You check your map, honey. My fence line's been right here since before you were born." She narrowed those eyes and said, "We'll see about that." And boy, did she ever. From that day, it was open season. First week, noise complaints because I dared trim my trees with a chainsaw. Next, a health violation because I had chickens, on a ranch, mind you. Then a petition, neatly printed, full of neighbor signatures, claiming my barn's red paint offended community aesthetics. I kept expecting Rod Serling to step out from behind my rose bush and welcome me to the Twilight Zone. But I didn't back down. Couldn't. There's something in me. Maybe it's family pride, maybe it's stubbornness, that doesn't let go easy. Still, every morning I'd find something new. Trash bins knocked over. Fence post snapped. One time, "Go home" spray painted on my garage in ugly white. I painted over it and hummed Patsy Cline the whole time. But it started to gnaw at me. Not the insults. The feeling that this place I loved was turning on me. Luke, my son, started stopping by more often. He'd grown up here before heading off to the academy, and now wore the county badge with more humility than any officer I'd known. "Ma, you want me to file something?" he'd ask, jaw tight. "I can talk to the sheriff." I always said no, not yet. Didn't want to stir up more drama. Figured Karen would get bored. I was wrong. About a month in, I'm watering tomatoes when 3 police cruisers roll up. Lights, no sirens. 4 officers step out. None I recognize. "Ma'am, we received a report of an elderly woman squatting on HOA property," one says. I almost choked on my spit. "Squatting?" Karen appears at the end of the driveway, arms folded, a little smirk like she's Miss America. "She's trespassing!" she yells, waving some crumpled paper. I could feel my ears burning. Thing is, I was ready. I went inside, came back out with my deed, the title, and my ID, laid them out on the hood like poker cards. The cops start checking. That's when Luke's SUV swings in, fast, dust flying. He's in uniform. He walks up, eyes cold, voice steady. "What's going on?" the officer explains. Luke glances at me. I nod. He turns to Karen. "Ma'am, did you file this report?" Karen, not recognizing him, crows, "Yes! That woman's been trespassing for weeks." And Luke just pulls out his badge, clear as day. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for harassment, false reporting, and criminal trespass." That's when Karen starts howling. It would have been funny if it wasn't so sad. And just as she's loaded into the cruiser, her friend Martha rushes up, clutching a folder. Inside, dozens of forged complaints. My name, my signature, none of which I'd ever seen. Luke flips through, stone-faced. "Where'd you get these?" Martha blubbers. "Karen said they were real." Suddenly, she's singing. Says there's more stashed at the clubhouse, in the basement, boxes and boxes of security records, signatures, petitions, even tapes. Luke calls for a search warrant. That's the moment I realized I was up against something bigger than a grudge about barn paint. As Karen's cruiser pulled away, she screamed, "This isn't over, Linda. You don't know who you're messing with." I watched the dust settle and tried to swallow the knot in my throat. That night, Luke and I sat on the porch, sweet tea sweating in our glasses. "This is felony stuff, Ma," he said. "If those forgeries connect back to the board—" He didn't finish. But I knew. I slept with the windows locked, my old baseball bat by the bed. Next morning, an envelope showed up in my mailbox. "Leave, or things get messy." No return address. Not even a signature. I marched it straight to Luke. He logged it as evidence, and I installed a new camera by the gate. 2 nights later, my new dog, Duke, a big shelter shepherd, went ballistic at 1 a.m. I crept to the back porch. 3 figures near the barn. I called Luke and 911, but couldn't wait. Flashlight in one hand, Duke's leash in the other. I stepped into the dark. Duke's growl made them freeze. "This is private property!" I yelled. They bolted, but one tripped, dropped a gas can. Within minutes, police and Luke swept in. 2 caught. One, Karen's nephew. The other, a local contractor she'd used for beautification projects. The woman vanished, but left a note. "We don't want your land. We want what's under it." That hit me hard. Years ago, Tom mentioned an oil surveyor had come by, said there might be something deep beneath our pasture. We never cared. But maybe Karen had heard. Luke pulled the property file. A new mineral rights transfer, dated a year after Tom died. My blood ran cold. "That's a forgery," Luke said, pointing to Tom's shaky signature. "The LLC it transferred to? Maple Ridge Holdings. And who managed that? Tyler Brandt, Karen's right-hand man." Luke set up the sting. With Martha's help, we got Karen on tape talking about moving Linda off her land. Police raided the clubhouse, found blueprints, fake notary stamps, and payout ledgers with 4 other HOA board members' names. Suddenly, it all made sense. The harassment, the threats, the break-ins. They wanted to force me out, grab the mineral rights, flip the land. If I'd left quietly, nobody would have ever known. Within days, the FBI stepped in. Offshore accounts, bribery, a list of other properties marked prime target, all elderly, mostly widows, all with land rumored to have oil or lithium. I was just the first domino. Karen cracked first, singing for a plea deal. Tyler lawyered up. Martha confessed everything. How Karen promised her a share, how she'd gotten in too deep, how Daniel Westmore, my husband's best friend, bankrolled the whole scheme. That one cut deepest. Daniel, my son's godfather, my late husband's fishing buddy, used our trust as his weapon. The mastermind, hiding in plain sight. The press called me a hero, a ranch rebel. I just felt tired. We had protection posted at the ranch, FBI agents disguised as farmhands. One Sunday, 3 SUVs tried to storm the property, masked men with jammers, trying to force a signature or stage an accident. The feds were ready. Gunfire broke out, chaos everywhere. Duke barking like a devil. They tried to blow up the barn, leave forged papers for the cops. But Luke and the agents stopped them cold. That USB drive they found? It had the playbook. Every target, every move Mail's plotting, Project Clean Sweep for dozens of small ranches. When they finally arrested Daniel trying to torch hard drives in his mountain cabin, I stood on my porch and watched the clouds roll over my hills and thought, what now? I could sell, take the millions, walk away, start somewhere new. But looking at Duke sprawled on the porch, the barn standing proud, the sunrise catching the old weather vane, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. And then the state geologist showed up, waving reports. It wasn't just oil. It was lithium, enough to make this patch of dirt a national strategic site. The government offered partnership. The lawyers offered buyouts. The DA offered restitution. But I told them all the same thing. This land's not for sale. I wrote letters, started a petition. Neighbors rallied. Soon, the Harper Act passed, protecting small ranchers from mineral seizures. Daniel got 22 years, Karen 7. Martha vanished into witness protection. Me? I'm still right here, watching the sunset, rocking on the porch swing, coffee in hand, chickens clucking, Duke snoring at my feet. And every so often, when the breeze comes down off the ridge, I hear my Tom's voice, soft and steady, like he's saying, "Hold the line, darlin', hold the line." So let me ask you, would you have walked away or would you have roared?